All right, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, December 10th, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Just really quickly, might as well go over yesterday. Remember yesterday in our pre-market, we said it was pretty much the same situation as the day before. So basically, until we could get outside of the range of the previous day, there really was nothing to do. As far as trading goes, I didn't think it was the best market to be putting risk on and going crazy in. So really wasn't a lot of trading in our trade room yesterday. I think we called a couple of things. We talked about maybe some rotations in the market with some multiple time frame stuff setting up. But overall, really not much of a market to be playing around in yesterday. So we said from the start we'd like to see at least some type of traction and break of that low of the day before, which we kind of got right at the end of the day. So they did eventually break down below the low of the day before, but just by a few points here, and that was it right at the end of the day. So I wasn't even at the charts. But for most of the day here, if you just zoom in and look from about the open, which was right around where you see my cursor here, to about pretty much the end of the day, it was up and down in a fairly tight range. So no fun. So that kind of, they attempted to sell off, right, and kind of pull back deeper. But the bulls jumped right back in as usual and kind of held it up here coming into the Globex session and pushing us here through the overnight to back to the highs from yesterday. So looks like the bulls are attempting to break out here, and we're going to talk about that this morning. So let's go ahead and jump up to the ultra high time frames here. Probably don't have much to say. I mean, quarterly still looks the same. No signs of exhaustion, looking very strong. Monthly still holding a really beautiful bullish divergence that we basically identified when this candle opened all the way down at 44, whatever it was, 92. So we were watching that for a little bit now. And on the weekly, also nice bullish divergence as well from that low at 44.92, and getting this really nice push, breaking that previous weekly bar high, which is a good kind of omen for the bulls there. And no signs of exhaustion from any of these higher time frames. On the daily, remember we talked about the ambivalent daily bar just 2 days ago, and we did have again a sideways day and then close to a lower low compared to that day, but the bulls jumped right back in, and essentially it looks like we have, if we can continue to push this morning, we'll have a nice little kind of bullish engulfing bar there, hopefully. Maybe not perfect because this bar did not open and cover the bottom little point or two range at the bottom end of the previous candle, but pretty much looks like we could probably break out of that with a nice bullish engulfing bar here. And what else can we say from the daily? There's really no divergence perspective. Everything just looks kind of normal from there. Don't see any divergences. Keep in mind that if the daily bar cannot get above the high from December 8th here, which was 47.12, if the market cannot get above 47.12 and it comes up and tests it and fails, and this RVI ends up closing lower than it was here or closes higher than it was back there on December 8th, we will have that double top divergence setting up. So we'll watch that. I'm not saying that's like the most likely scenario, just saying that would be the only potential divergence that could set up. Otherwise, if we push higher here, this RVI doesn't push higher, would also have potential divergence. But right now, still looks strong. So wasting a little bit of time up here. And now 4 hour, basically again, this range from about 46.60, 46.70 up to the highs around 47.05. This is the range we said we didn't want to be trading in, and we're still in it here this morning. Now yesterday, I think at the end of or maybe at the beginning or end of our study session, we talked about starting to see some decent bullish signals over here, and I drew this on the chart saying it looked like if there was going to be follow through, there would be a potential to break out from here. However, as you can see, it kind of the bears held the market down and sold it off into the close there, so we never got follow through from there. However, now it looks like this scenario might be underway. So looking from the 4-hour perspective, the low that we made from yesterday got another bullish divergence. Let me delete that arrow that I drew in there. And let's take a look. So here, this might be what's happening. And notice what we have is essentially, we have the bull flag, right? So we got a nice push up and then kind of a sideways trending lower situation. And the argument is that this bull flag will lead to a nice breakout to the upside. And right now, if you look at the way I drew these trend lines, is I went ahead and basically drew from the lows, got myself that trend line, and then I copy it, paste it, and bring it up to draw across the tops. And as you can see, the high from the 8th and the high from the 9th line up really nicely, and now we're getting a potential breakout here to the upside. So that would be like a textbook bull flag. So we'll see if that's what's going to happen this morning. Right now, we do have much more of a bullish argument off the low than a bearish argument off the high. Keep in mind that if we don't get above 47.06, we might end up getting a bearish divergence on the 4-hour here. So the high right now is 0650. So we got up here, we're higher in price than we were yesterday. However, the RVI is lower. So there's potential for that 4-hour bearish signal, but right now looks like we're getting follow through off of that pullback. So I think there's more potential for this to continue going this way, but we'll have to see what the other time frames have to say here. Let's go down to the 60-minute. 60-minute also had really nice bullish divergence from that previous daily low. And right now, no sign of it. Well, actually, I take that back. We do have a little exhaustion pattern from that high. So, geez. I wish we were getting a nice alignment and there was no exhaustion up here, but the 60-minute has a little bit of exhaustion pattern there. And outside of that, let's see if there's anything else to mention. Just kind of looking at things from here before we jump down to the intermediate time frames. Essentially getting up above 0650, which I guess is our overnight high here, and getting through 4712, that basically opens up a lot more room for the upside, and there's not much above us. Remember, the all-time high is 4050, so once we can get through 12, there's maybe something around 17, maybe something right up around 25, and then that brings us right back into the all-time high. So getting above here, and this was the trend channel we were looking at on the 60-minute here just a day or two ago, right? So we were looking at it kind of sloping upward, but now that we have the lower low, we have to kind of come back in and redraw it like I did on the 4-hour, which is basically from these lows now, coming across, and then copying and pasting that, bringing it up to the highs. Basically, you line it up with the highest swing high. In this case, both line up perfectly. So this is a really nice channel. And as you can see, we are attempting to break out to the upside, but they got to get through 12. That's kind of like the little line in the sand there for this pattern. So they need to get through 12, and then from there, ideally they would pull back, find some support, and continue going. So we'll see if that happens. Let's go to the intermediate time frames here and just see if we get agreement on the lows. So let's go to the 30-minute here. Remember, this 5650 was that previous swing high that hasn't been tested. That looks pretty ripe. If they pull back, it would make sense as a potential support. That's why I have that on there. But again, a nice bullish divergence from the 30-minute low, which is basically because of this whole wacky pattern we've been making off lows. And right now, we do have the agreement on that bearish exhaustion pattern from the overnight high at 0650. So as you can see this morning, basically most of the time frames are saying if we can't get through the overnight high, we're going to print a multiple time frame bearish signal, which could end up following through for a retracement back down. And then from our 10-minute, we've got basically the same pattern. Looking right now, we've got the bearish signal from the overnight high here. And then arguably they're starting to become a little bullish signal right now. So maybe we'll find some support to get a balance, a little shallow pullback. But right now, I think it's pretty clear. It looks like we're trying to break out of this, what I would call a bull flag. And I'll throw this up here on the 10-minute as well. And so it looks very much like we are breaking out of it. So again, if we can get through 12, and again 06 to begin with, and we can get through 12, it's going to open up those levels we just talked about. If not, we do have enough time frames to indicate if this holds here from 0650 or maybe comes to 12 and can't get through, that we could get again a retracement back lower. So that's what we're looking at today. We'll jump down to our short time frames here and go over to our member section and start looking for some good trades coming into the open. Just keep in mind, sometimes I forget to mention, if we go back here to the 10-minute, we have 50% of the previous day at 84, 50% of that previous 4-hour candle at 74. Staying above these levels will be important for the bullish case, and I do like that 74.75 and the other eye level just above it is lining up with this previous resistance from the overnight. So coming back down, having some confluence with levels and price action is a good thing. So might want to look for some potential longs in some of these key areas. And then again, if the bears are really strong here, then we're just going to have to go ahead and flip our hats for the opposite direction. Remember, anything's possible in the market. All we're doing here is seeing if we can get any type of clues as to what the market's doing, and then if the market ends up doing the opposite, we just go ahead and react, right? So you got to be nimble as a trader. Have a great Friday, and I hope you have a good weekend. We'll be back here on Monday morning, bright and early.